The story begins when our main protagonist, called Ruji, buys a copy of Infinite Dendrogram: The War. LD's first full virtual reality MMORPG. Upon entering the game, he is greeted by a cat called Cheshire, who is one of the AI in charge of overseeing the game, and tells Ray he must choose an online alias. He chooses the name Ray Starling. As he arrives at the Kingdom of Alter, Ray meets a woman called Liliana, an NPC who asks for his help in looking for her sister, called Million. Ray's brother, called Shu, offers to help in the quest, but after finding Million in an abandoned orchard, they are attacked by demi-drag worms, which you drag underground, and Liliana fighting elsewhere only. Ray's left to bring Million to safety. Fortunately, reawakens his embryo called Nemesis, who manifests as a sword and destroys the last demi-drag worm, finishing the quest as Ray Nemesis. And to celebrate the completion of Ray's first quest, Shu explained some of Alter's history to Ray and help him to become a paladin. Later, Rain and Nemesis attempt to level up, but they are ambushed by a player killer. Despite his efforts to escape, Ray is killed and has to wait 2004 hours before logging back into Infinite Dendrogram again to become stronger. Ray and Nemesis go to elaborate in the Royal Cemetery, where they fight zombies and meet another PLA. You're called Figaro, one of the top-ranking players in Alter, who recommends Ray to visit Gideon, a city where players can have tools and suffer no penalty for dying. As Figaro takes his leave, Ray and Nemesis continue their fight throughout the labyrinth. But Nemesis is left terrified by the zombies, and Ray consoles her by polishing her blade. Range Nemesis into others called Rook in Babylon discover that the player killers stalking the four corners of Alter have been eliminated. Another player, called Marie Adler, who is a journalist working for the Dendrogram Information Network, confirms the story and shows the group of video depicting 3 of the top players in Alter, Figaro included, defeating the player killers. Very also confirms that the player killer stalking the north, who is responsible for killing Ray, escaped and is still at large, giving Ray and Nemesis the opportunity to get even. Later, than Ray and Nemesis survey a destroyed forest, they come across Cheshire, who was running maintenance in the area, and informs Ray that maiden-type embryos like Nemesis shared the same functionality as administration. Nice, with the player killers defeated, the roads across Alter now open are and his allies accept the quest to transport goods to get in, with Marie offering to come along unbeknownst to Ray and his allies. A giant over Colgard random stalks the road to get in as Ray's group sets out on their journey to Gideon. They encounter a group of goblins attacking a caravan of travelers. Ray and his allies defeat the goblins until they are ambushed by guard Randall, who spreads out poisonous gas to weaken Ray. Murray gives Ren a lecture to temporarily protect him from the poison's effects, while Roquan babbling keep guard Randy distracted. As the battle progresses, Messies evolves into her second form and gains an ability called Like a Flag, flying the reversal, which allows her to reverse any spells affecting Rain. Despite this, Nemesis' offensive abilities are severely reduced, and Ray kills guard Randall when a bullet fired by the unidentified player Akins it at the last possible second, with the boss defeated and the group arriving and getting the questions and Rays selected. As MVP, Ray also obtains two magical bracers as new weapons, but gets himself injured while testing them out until a stranger in a penguin suit, who calls himself DRF Flamingo, gives Ray a potion that heals him but also gives him animal ears. Flamingo runs away, but not before telling Ray that he should return to normal in 10 hours. Ray and Nemesis are confused as to how Flamingo knows Ray, even though Rain never gave him his name. In the end, we see what looks like a player sitting in a dark room glaring at monitor screens, watching several players and commenting about Ray and Nemesis visit an item shop in Gideon, where Ray earns a special stallion from a game machine. Unfortunately, Ray cannot ride it without earning a special amulet. First Rate attempts to earn money in order to buy the amulet until he comes across a fellow master called Hugo and his friend Cycle. They'll get a quest from a woman who asks them to save her brother from a child kidnapping gang. Upon accepting the quest, Hugo reveals his weapon, a giant robot called Managing Here, which he uses to take Ray to the gang's fortress, but not before telling Ray that masters of main-type embryos like Ray do not consider Infinite Dendrogram to be a game B. UT as genuine as real life itself. While Hugo and Psycho attack the fortress's defenders, had no Ray nemesis infiltrate the fortress and discover that several of the kidnapped children have been murdered and turned into undead monsters, forcing Ray to kill them in an act of mercy. Hugo was attacked by a giant boss guarding the fortress, forcing him to reveal Psycho as his embryo and merger with his manager. Hugo destroys the boss while Ray reaches the fortress's the lowest non-Jin and finds a child is the sole survivor, but as he tries to save him, the child awakens and attacks Ray. I survives the surprise attack thanks to Nemesis is Helberg. Foreman confronts the mastermind behind the kidnappings, a Link who is trying to create a powerful magical relic called the Crystal of Resentment. The Link attempts to flee, but is stopped by Hugo, and Ray kills him while Ray and his allies venture deep into the castle to rescue the remaining children. The bandits had worked for the Link attempt to steal his possessions, including the crystal. Unfortunately, the crystal reacts to the lake's death, kills the bandits, and merges with their corpses, creating a new boss. Hugo attack the children to safety while Ray confronts the Barcelona nemesis, discovers that the boss is controlled by the lingering grudges of the people that compose, and she gains extra attack power whenever the like scratch controls. Unfortunately, Ray's injured in battle and Nemesis takes him to safety while going to confront the boss on her own. Ray has a dream about a mysterious girl who observes the time she saved him, a little girl, from getting hit by a truck but got his foot injured in the process. Ray blamed himself for his injury, but she told him to believe in himself and to never lose faith in whatever choice he makes. This motivates Ray to return to the fight, but not before the girl reveals herself to be the last remnant of guard Randa's mind, having acquired sentience after Ray killed her original form. Ray destroy the boss and acquire a pair of briefs as a reward. Later that night, Hugo and Casa meet up with Flamingo, takes off his penguin suit and discusses his plan to end the war between Alter and Drive. With all their major quests finished, reanalysis meet up with Marie Rouge and babbling to have breakfast together. He gives them an invitation to a fighting tournament that will be held in Gideon later. He tells Ray and the missus that he's friends with Figaro, who will compete in the tournament. Ray goes to see Hugo in order to split up the reward for the previous quest, and Hugo advises Ray to go west as the tournament begins. Franklin calls the general of Drive's military and tells him of High's plan to use the tournament to Drive's advantage. She gives Rattle up at the cuff, which can be used to communicate with two people across long distances, to also warns Figure that he will face tough opponents in the tournament. But Figaro still intends to win. Ray's about to bet on Figure for the tournament's next match, but Nemesis stops him, thinking he will waste their money again. They stumble upon a player called Sunny who is carrying an unconscious girl. Ray thinks Sunny was about to harm the girl and attempts to fight her, but proves to be too fast for him. Fortunately, Shu steps in and defuses the situation. And the unconscious girl is actually an ambassador from the One He Empire, with Sunny was her bodyguard, ranged to reunite with the rest of the party as the match begins with Figaro and Sunny set to fight each other. Sunny was able to land several hits on Figaro, even cutting out one of his lungs. However, Figueroa possesses a special embryo that makes him more powerful the longer he remains in a fight. Just when it looks like Sunny who has directed the killing blow toward Figueroa's heart, she reveals that Figueroa's embryo is inside his body and is shaped like a heart, protecting him from the attack. Figaro ends up winning the match, but Flamingo interrupts and reveals himself to be Franklin, a scientist working for the driving period. He also reveals he kidnapped an NPC called Elizabeth, Alter second princess, and is keeping her hostage. Marie, having known Elizabeth GHT before the tournament to Gideon started, becomes determined to save her from Franklin, who reveals that he's surrounded the arena with the barrier, and if players attempt to break through the monsters under Franklin's control will destroyed. Gideon Mummery goes on to save Elizabeth on her own, rediscovers the underlevel players like himself can walk through the barrier safely, as the barrier was only meant to hold high-ranking players that could partake in the tournament's match. Cheese, Rain Rock and other underlevel players fight players affiliated with Dr. Franklin tells Elizabeth that his plan is to eliminate any players affiliated with Alter in action. that will leave Alter vulnerable in an upcoming war against Dr. Marie, briefly saves Elizabeth and inflict lethal damage on Franklin, but Franklin transfers all the damage he sustained to his monsters and survives as he recaptures Elizabeth. He did this as Marie managed to kill a high-ranking player using only an under-leveled embryo, and orders his henchman called Bell Doorbell to eliminate Marie. Meanwhile, a group of low-ranking players attempts to liberate Gideon's West Gate, but Hugo kills Marie. Hugo and Bildable remember the experiences that led them to play Infinite Dendrogram. In the first place, Bildable uses his ability to manipulate sound in an attempt to kill Marie, but she kills him by her revealing her embryo called are concealed. Meanwhile, Franklin takes the unconscious Elizabeth outside Gideon and instructs Hugo to keep everyone except Ray from leaving the city. As Franklin steps outside the city, he is attacked by the Royal Guard, dead by Liliana, but he summons a monster to decimate them. Rand retreats Hugo, who agrees to let Ray confront Franklin, but not before Ray and Hugo attack each other only once as Rick remains behind and fights Hugo. Ray reaches the city's outskirts and prepares to fight Franklin. As the fight between Broke and Hugo continues, Hugo uses a skill that freezes parts of Rook's body over time. Thanks to his deduction skills, Rick is able to understand how Hugo's skill works and merges with babbling to fight with Hugo's mansion. The power boost allows Rick to pierce through Hugo's cockpit and incapacitate him with his charm magic. Meanwhile, Franklin tells Ray that the potion he gave him earlier actually feeds Franklin information about his status level and weapons, and use that information to create a monster with the express purpose of killing Wright. He also reveals that he is the one who sent Liliana's sister Million to the monster-infested orchard, which was yet another attempt to weaken Alter. Retells Liliana answer Lindos of the Royal Guard to save their injured companions, while he attacks the monster directly using his newest weapons. Ray is able to expose the monster's entrails and unleashes a magical attack that completely disintegrates. Although Ray's successful in destroying Franklin's monster, he sustained severe injuries and falls unconscious. Liliana cast a healing spell that keeps Ray from dying, but she is unable to heal his left arm. Franklin reveals the monster destroyed was actually the weakest monster he created for the invasion, and he uses a detonator to activate a series of bombs he planted all over Alter. But the bombs failed to activate and Franklin realizes Marie has disarmed them. Rook captures Hugo and makes him realize that Franklin never intended to end the Alter drive. For with minimal casualties, Franklin summons his embryo called Pandemonium and sends an army of suicidal monsters to attack Gideon, but Ray awakens and takes on Franklin's monster in order to buy enough time for his allies to prepare a counterattack. With the help of Rock Marine and a group of players, Ray is able to hold the line. Franklin realizes that with so many players assisting Ray, Hugo must have betrayed him to enters the battlefield and reveals himself to be the King of Destruction. The player with the highest kill count in all of the Alter, he summons his embryo, a battleship that decimates a significant portion of Franklin's army. Franklin realizes he has lost the battle, so he goes on to activate his final weapon. Franklin activates his final weapon, a large subterranean creature that will destroy Gideon's Colosseum, but fed him a foreign player who had infiltrated the Colosseum. Uses magic to move the tectonic plates around the creature, crushing it to death. Y manages to reach Pandemonium and attempts to confront Franklin, but Hugo steps in to protect him, revealing that Franklin is Hugo's older sister. Ray sacrifices both arms to defeat both Hugo and Franklin while she destroys Pandemonium, and Marie rescues Elizabeth. With the battle over, Liliana heals Ray but is unable to save his left arm, leaving Ray with his right arm to continue playing the game. In the aftermath, Franklin removes Hugo from the Triangle of Wisdom, both in an attempt to protect him and to undo any moral restraints he may have been. His goal of beating Ray also has a rematch with Marie, having already discovered she was the one who killed him earlier. Later, Ray disconnects himself from the game and decides to continue his college studies in the real world, and this brings the anime to end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you enjoyed, turn on the notification so you never miss out on another video. Until next time, take care.